Oh man, the hand. And I'm not talking about this kind of hand. No, I'm talking about the hand faction in Marvel Strike Force. This team is easily one of the deadliest and most synergistic teams that you can use in Strike Force right now, and it's really paying off dividends, especially in areas like Blitz. And it's really surprising considering that most of your hand team is going to be made up of unnamed minions or generic characters, which goes against the rule of thumb for Marvel Strike Force where your named heroes are usually miles ahead of what you'll see with your generic characters. So let's go ahead and break down these characters and just what makes each of them so good and what characters are your best optimal lineup for the hand faction. And first up, we have Nobu. He is pretty much the leader of your team. Without him, your hands are going to really struggle to do a lot. So you need him. He's pretty much only through premium orbs. He's very hard to get, but I have found we have a pretty decent draw chance of him from those orbs. So you should get a pretty good amount of him pretty quickly as long as you buy them, or you get a nice amount of free orbs from Blitz or anything else like that. His main ability is the ability to summon 2 minions. It can be either Blade Masters or Archers, and back during soft launch, these characters were incredibly strong, and he was one of the top characters in the game because of the ability to summon these extremely strong minions. However, when it went to live, these minions got nerfed, and their health really took a serious hit. They went from something the durability of a shield to something more of the durability of a wet paper bag.
You what?
So they are not as strong now, however they can still do a lot of damage, but you do need to keep them alive through some kind of abilities. And speaking of ways to keep them alive, next up we have Sorceress and Sentry. Both of these characters, they really build off each other. They work hand in glove pretty much. And what's going on here, Sentry can stealth your entire team, he can apply evade to some of the allies, and Sorceress can heal up your team and also apply defense up to several of your allies. So she and Sentry both work really great here. They can help stealth those minions who get summoned to have a low health so they can't be attacked. They can give them evasion, and then also Sorceress can give them defense up, and that really helps cut the incoming damage, not just for those minions but for the entire team overall. Now of course with that you do have most of your damage dealers, and that's with Blade Master, Archer, Assassin, and Electra. All 4 of these characters are really your damage dealers for the team. I have found that Blade Master and Archer are the best minions to have for damage dealing here because they just do a lot of damage. Both their uniques give them a lot of bonus damage. Archer gets a lot of bonus damage based off of hand allies, so getting those extra summons in from Nobu also boosts his damage too. He also has an AoE dispel, so he can do a lot of dispelling on the entire opposing team if something like Black Widow or you have multiple tanks taunting, so his AoE dispel does great. On the other hand, you have Electra, so she has a dispelling special that allows her to take off a buff from one of the main enemies. However, I have to say Archer does more damage than Electra. Archer was just going to deal more damage overall thanks to his basic dealing piercing damage, which ignores armor, and also because he has that AoE dispel, he's just a better attacking character to have for your hand team over Electra. Assassin, she has some nice healing immunity blocking kind of abilities, and so she's a nice character to have in there, but unless you're fighting a really heal heavy team, you're not going to have a lot of use for her in this kind of team. So I would recommend bringing in Blade Master and Archer over Assassin and Electra. Now, as many of you probably have found out by now with playing this game, the turn order of your team is very important to determine just how well they're going to do, especially that opening salvo. If things don't go right, you can have a hard time winning the battle, and thankfully the hand are built just for this. They are built really well because of the turn order where Nobu can go before Sentry and Sorceress, so he can summon those minions, but they have just slightly lower speeds than him, so they can go pretty soon after, and then they can throw out that defense up. They can also stealth, so that really allows you to get those minions out quickly and then throw up that protective cover of defense up and stealth / evasion from Sentry to really make sure those minions are not going to be targetable by the opposing team. And of course then that means they can then be free to use their AoE dispels if it's Archers, or the special from Blade Master, they can hit twice, do a lot of damage. All of these are going to allow for a quick burst of opening damage from your team without a lot of fear of retribution. Stealth characters can still be countered, however I have a feeling at some point that could be fixed in the future, but for now stealth characters can be countered, so you can have counter on the opposing team. Those stealth characters can still get hit. You can lose your stealth minions very easily like that, but at the same time you can use dispels to dispel that counter and prevent it from happening. So the opening turn order is really great for hands, so it allows them to really build up those damage in the opening seconds, really get a lot of burst damage out, and put up a sort of insurmountable wall against the opposing team. The enemy team is going to basically have its hands full, trying to manage all the burst damage from your team, managing how to get through those buffs and the stealth and the evasion, while also being able to take down Hand Sentry, who is your tank in this team because basically he forces the team to attack him, but he also gets some bonus block chance from his unique, so he is basically your tank for your Hand team. Now, when it comes to counters for fighting against a Hand team, the one thing that you really want to focus on is AoE attacks. The Punisher here is a great counter because his speed is slightly slower than Sorceress and Sentry, so you can go pretty soon after them, and if they don't apply that evasion up to the minions that get summoned in, his AoE is going to take them out in one hit, so he can take them out of the gate right away before they ever have a chance to move. He is a fantastic counter to a Hand team. Quake can apply offense down on her ultimate ability. Rocket Raccoon does a ton of damage on his ultimate AoE ability. You have Hawkeye who can apply blind, so blind's going to help prevent your team from dealing damage right after that AoE. There are some pretty significant counters to the Hand team that are some of the meta characters as well. Quake is already one of the best characters in the game. She's a really nice counter to a Hand team. So there are some great abilities there. One thing you will need to do is bring in some tanks to help protect those AoE characters so they can charge up their ultimate abilities in time. So Hulk, Captain America, Crossbones, Luke Cage, anything that's going to help protect those characters, that'll be a great way for you to, that'll be a great character for you to include in. However, keep in mind that you have to be careful of Hand Archers on the opposing team because of the AoE dispels. That's going to help prevent your team from getting those taunts up and keep them up to protect those characters. So you do need to spread them out and time them around the dispels from Hand Archer to make sure that you can at least keep one taunt up at all times to prevent those characters from getting damaged and to build up those AoE so you can then knock out that Hand team. So build up those AoE counter abilities, get something like Punisher, which is one of the first characters you're going to get in the game anyways. Quake is another go-to character that everybody should be farming anyways. Get those AoE abilities, get something in there to help keep them alive and help protect them, and then just unleash on the enemy Hand team and really just take them out pretty quickly. Just basically backhand them back into oblivion. However, if you can find it within you to figure out how to master this team, bring out together all these synergies, figure out how this team works, and put it out there for everyone to fear and run away from and scream away crying for their mothers in terror, you will find that this team is one of the most reliable for you in areas of the game, especially something like Blitz. When you start getting into that red danger meter where most people start screaming like,
"No, God! No, God, please, no! No!"
However, once you throw in a team like the Hand, you can then start to have a reaction more similar to,
"Oh, yeah."
And all this comes to with their synergy, and once you can master all of this, you will find that this team is incredibly great there because that danger meter is something that they laugh at.
I laugh in the face of danger.
And they just ignore, because with this I can constantly take out teams that have a significantly higher power rating than I do. In the range of 10k more power than I have, I can consistently beat those teams. As long as it's not something that is heavy on the AoE, I will do a really great job of mastering and taking out those teams and really helping to push that points multiplier up. This team is fantastic for Blitz. So once you have everything mastered with the Hand, and once you are able to bring their full power to bear, you will find that you will start having a lot of matches that are going to end up looking a lot like this. And you know, all this is remarkable because this is a team that has a lot of minions on it, and like I said at the beginning of the video, generally your named characters are way stronger than your minions or your generic non-named characters. So your Hand is a faction that has a lot of synergy with it, and that's what causes them to go over that barrier of being mostly generic characters. This is a team that can be quite the handful to a lot of teams out there, and it's all mostly consisted of generic characters, and this is great. You know, maybe there's hope out there for some of these other factions, though maybe not for something like Hydra, because Hydra is just not good right now. So if you're working on a faction that you really want to build up to dominate and blitz, be more competitive in certain areas of the game, I highly recommend you go for the hand, but don't sit on this for too long, because as we all know, for the saying as it goes, idle hands make for the daredevil's work. So do not sit on this team for very long. Don't sit on your hands with this one. And that's about it for this video. I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and tune in next time to where we talk about the Kree without trying to scream in the process.